Our usual approach to things are divided between subject and object. Mind is the knower and the other things are object of knowing. The mind has a long perpetuated habit of looking outwardly, and it does not have the capacity to look to itself. You can see a color or a picture by your eyes. There's no need of any specific effort. You can hear the sound, you can smell the smell, and you can taste, you can touch. All these sensory organs can go to its objects almost automatically, and there's no need of any extra effort. Then all these sensory perception or sensory mind sends the image to your inner mind. That is mostly a nature of thought, which does not have a direct approach to the object, but it deals with the image of it. And when you are dealing with the image of it, you mix up the time, the space, and the actual and the image, all this together, and that is our thought process. So the sensory mind and the inner mind, all of these are all the time engaged to see the external objects, external things which are knowable. Now, to know the mind means you are not looking to any outside object. You are looking to your own consciousness, the instrument which to see or look to the object, you shall have to look its own. We can see the other person's face very easily. We cannot see our own face unless there is a mirror to reflect it. So similarly, if you does not have a powerful mindfulness to watch the arising, developing, decay and disappearance of a thought process or of a mindset, it's very difficult to watch. These days, the meditation teachers talk about mindfulness. The mindfulness has so many different ways of understanding, but usually mindfulness means to be alert, to be awake, to see the process of your own mind. If you do some practice, then you will understand how it is difficult. In the usual stage, we do not notice it because we are not making any effort to see the mind. Now it is difficult to verbalize. As I mentioned, the Buddhist people use the expression mindfulness. Jiddu Krishnamurti used to use the expression of observation, awareness, or awakening. But sit down silently for few moments and give up all the external objects of knowing and just reflect how the thought, how the consciousness is working. A part of consciousness sees back to the working of consciousness. Then it is not an easy job, as I mentioned. It's very difficult. You may sit hours together, but you are not able to catch your mind even for a small moment. These things are mostly a subject of experiential, so therefore I feel short of vocabulary to explain. I can just give an example. Negative emotions due to certain event or certain incident which arose in you, a very strong anger. You are angry to something, to somebody, or to some action. And during that influence of the powerful anger, you may do many things which are usually a person do not like to do. And then after some time, it depends on individuals, after a few hours or after a few days, when the anger goes away, then you realize that I did so wrong. I shouldn't have done this, and then you repent it. So why? At that moment of anger arises, there was no watchdog. There's no one to see the face of the anger. And similarly, you are under the influence of greed or some other kind of negative emotion. You are not aware of that emotion. And when you realize it, it is only in the memory. The thing has been already passed. Memory always goes with the past, not with the present. In other words, I may see this like this. To see my consciousness at the very moment of its arising. That means aware of it at the same time. We may think that I am aware of my mind, but your awareness, what you are calling, what you are describing awareness is not an awareness. It is a memory. Memory means you recall the past. The recalling past is not seeing the exact, because when they recall, the thing is past and you are just with the image of it, not the reality of it. My eye consciousness and the image of Buddha, it is a direct contact, and I am seeing it in the present. When I shut down my eyes, my mind still have the memory of the Buddha's image. And at that time it is only a metal image, not the real outside thing. And that metal image is of the past, when I have seen it with the consciousness, and is already past. So the time, space, and all this, the mind has so complicated composition. So therefore, I started to saying that mind itself is the knower, and to know oneself is more difficult. Some of the Indian scholars have given the metaphor. You might be very, your body might be very trained, and you are a good gymnastic, but to sit on your own shoulder is not an easy thing. Similarly, to watch or to aware, to see your own mind by your own mind is not easy. Our usual ordinary mind is being conditioned by so many external causes: the education, the cultural, the society, the family, the custom, the system, the manners. Our mind is being conditioned in a very different way. So therefore, the conditioned mind is very much different from the natural, unconditioned mind. Basic human mind is positive. Basic human mind is compassionate. Basic human mind is love and kindness. But that basic thing has been buried under the layers of conditioning, covering, a defaultment. Now the cultivate the mind means we have to argue with the mind. Analytical meditation means argument. We have to argue with the mind. We have to analyze with the mind. We have to debate with our own mind. So, therefore, the basic key point is to have a kind of countering one's own mind by one's own mind face to face. So that means you have to divide your mind into two portions. Let the conditioned mind go its own way, and have a part of mind which could be looking to the process of the conditioned mind. And by that way, you can reduce the conditioning and you can cultivate the mind very slowly. I may say the meaning of understanding of mind is you are able to see the process of your mind or your thought at the very moment of its arising, and seeing it as it is. Seeing it as it is means without any distortion, without any value judgment, just to see. There is anger. You are able to see the anger as it is. There is a greed. You have to see the greed as it is. There is a kindness. There is a love. You have to see the love as it is. Not remembering it later on. Seeing the very moment of its arising. So that I mean the understanding mind. It may not make any sense. Okay.
My name is Noah. In a conversation with Dr. Dovin Rover, you said, Buddhism itself is not a part of evolution or driven by evolution. Can you explain more about what you meant?
I forgot what I have said. Buddhism itself is not a part of evolution or driven by evolution.
Can someone explain the question a little more?
Yes. In the interview, you said that evolution is only possible for individuals. In Buddhism, you can only evolve your own understanding, not the religion itself. And I wanted a little bit more of an explanation about that.
So are you saying the principles of Buddhism don't evolve, but the individual evolves in relationship to those? Mm-hmm. And you'd like to understand more about that?
The principle of evolution is something new for the traditional people. And it is a Western way to see the things gradually evolved. It has its logic. We all understand and accept the principle of causality, the cause and which gives effect, and the cause improves and the effect also improve by this way. But the theory of evolution, as such, the modern science tells us, for example, evolution of the living creatures from one cell and then the two cell and something like that, then according to needs and challenges, the human body is evolved, the world is evolved, culture is evolved, something like that. Buddhism is, in real sense, a tradition. And a tradition means originated by an authentic source. Authentic source means a person who have perceived the thing, the truth, and the person's perception is retold to his or her listeners. In the Christian context, they would say originated from divine source. And in the Buddhist context, we would say originated from an authentic source. Buddha is considered to be an authentic teacher because he does not teach anything which is not he have seen at the experiential level or directly perceive it. So Buddha is considered to be omniscient, knows everything, sees everything. Knowing is also not the, is it? Perceives all the truth. And for example, the Four Noble Truths or True Truth these are being revealed by Buddha through his own experiential perception. Buddha does not entertain any thought. All the Buddha's mind is perceived mind, not a conceived mind. At Buddha level, there's no conceived mind. The whole mind is perceived mind. That means it sees everything directly and at the perception level. So he tells that there is a truth of misery, there is a cause of truth of misery, and there is a freedom from the cause of misery, and there is a path. All these are true reality. So he said it on the basis of the ground reality as things exist. So these principles are not gradually evolved. These truths are always there. Whether Buddhas come or Buddha doesn't come, for noble truth, the truths are always remain there. There are people who are suffering, and it's not deniable. There are people who got freedom from suffering. They are also true. And they are path to go to the freedom of misery. That's also true. There are cause of misery which can be eradicated. All these are always true, and it was not gradually, the truth is not gradually evolved by many circumstances or through many gradual development of things. For physical body, or for the mountains or the seas or the geographical things, you can say it is evolving. It comes out of evolution. The Himalayan is still growing due to a collision of two earth, and then there is a mountains coming up. It is from the forces, it is coming up. These are kind of evolution. A tree is growing from a small, and then is gradually growing. So these are a part of evolution. So the principle of Dharma, what Buddha have taught, is not part of such gradual development or evolution. It was a recounting the reality, the truth which always exists. So that is why I might have meant it not a part of evolution or driven by evolution. Driven by evolution means the truth of suffering was not there in the beginning. Then there are some causes or conditions that come together, and then it is gradually a small kind of misery, and then it's become big kind of misery. So it is not like that. A truth, the ultimate truth, the relative truth is always there. It is not driven by some circumstances or some causality. It is nature. So
you're talking about inherent principles that exist at the substratum.
Yes.
While everything else is evolving, that truth remains
that truth
eternal.
Remains, eternal. Yes.
Wow. Let's give him an easy question now.
I think the questions are easy. I complicated them. Answering.
Who's next?
I'm Renata. In speaking with the Mount Madonna group in 2013, you said, The process of searching for the truth is more important than finding the truth. However, most educational systems train students to simply provide predictable answers rather than digging deeper into the process of searching for solutions. What impact do you think the current educational system is having on the nature of our overall society?
All of you have done great homework for for formulating these questions. That's a very good question. I try to make the answer a bit simple and easy, not to complicate further. In our life, we supposed to learn things right from childhood gradually. The learning is a growth or evolution or a development which can go for a long time and then accumulates the knowledge. In our learning process, we have to analyze how much the subjects we really know and how much the things we just accept. We do not know, but we accept. Knowing and accepting is two different things. Knowing means I personally do the experiment or the analyzation and I find the result, then I know. But in our education process, 80% of things we just rely on the teacher, on the book. By other people has done the experiment and they find some conclusion and which is written in the book and the teacher retold in the classroom and you just, yes, I understand. I can give a metaphor, an example. Last year I was taken to a Museum of Man, and the Museum of Man, the curator was guiding me to explain the things. And just in the entrance door, there was a picture of the monkey and slowly getting up and then slowly moving on to feet, how to evolve the human body, and he was telling me. Then I jokingly, not completely jokingly, with some seriousness, I asked him, how you know it? He says, it is written by, there is a Darwin theory, it is everybody knows and it's written, and you have did all this research? He says, no, it is already done by so and so, and now it is accepted by all the universally, and everybody knows this. It had happened. Then I just put a simple question. Why these present monkeys are not evolved to the human being? What is their disadvantage or their crime? These are the descendants of the ancient monkeys, and these one portion of monkeys become human beings like us, and there are still many monkeys are remain unevolved So how you can tell which kind of potential or gene or cells can be evolved to human and which kind of things then he was confused. I have never thought about it. If you have never thought about it, that means you just accepted what the Darwin has told to you. Then he says, yes. So we personally do not know many scientific realities, truths. I do not say that scientific findings are false. The scientific findings might be true, or still they are more room for further search. Most of the scientific findings are in approximate. Then some new findings come, all the principles can be revised. This is the reality of the modern scientific way. So that means knowing by oneself in our learning process is a very small percentage. And acceptance of the findings of others are much more. And it is further when someone is a believer of some tradition or religion, then the portion of knowing becomes much less and acceptance becomes much more. For example, Buddhist people, they do not know most of the Buddhist principles and they accept it because Buddha have told, because the canon have said it, because my Guru have said it. So just rely upon that. In spite of the fact that Buddha have repeatedly told his disciples, don't rely on me. You find it for yourself. And you do not accept anything due to your reverence to the Buddha, and Buddha have said it. Unless and until you find it for yourself, it is nothing, no use for you. Buddha have told many things, but if I do not understand by my own experiment, by my own analytical search, then knowing by Buddha, he can only lead me. He can only tell me how to experiment, how to analyze, how to search, how to inquire, how to research into the realities. But we have to search by our own. My friend late Jiddu Krishnamurti always used to say, don't hurry to find an answer, but you learn to live with the question. And he used to ask, can you live with the question? That means you are continuing into the inquiry and into the learning. And once you find in a conclusion, either by yourself or accepting by somebody else giving the conclusion, then your learning process ends there. You are satisfied with the correct or false answer, and that may be by your own conclusion, that may be somebody told you or some book has given this information. So therefore, we have to, of course, in the beginning, we have to rely upon the books or the principles given by the previous searcher, but not to accept it as it is. We must continue to learn, continue to inquire into it, to find the reality by oneself. Then one can say that I know it, not I accept it, not I read somewhere else, or not I was told by somebody. So to find the truth or the reality by oneself is the important in the education system. It may be fewer. You may not know whole range of subjects, but you know few things by your own, and you have the ability to find things by yourself. That is more intelligent and more educated. Now the final question, what impact do you think the current education system is having on the nature of our overall society? I do not know much of the society because I do not live in the society. The Buddhist monks are considered to be withdrawn from the society. Of course, we are dependent on society. Gandhi have mentioned a number of imbalances, disbalances, which is the impact of modern education. In the ancient time, there are many things in life, positive, negative, or related some two things which makes the life balance, equal. Therefore, one can go without falling straight. You might have seen some of the body trainers in the gymnasium or in the show of some magic and other things. A person can work on a rope or on a thin wire and carrying a long stick or bamboo, and by balancing the person can go through on the rope and not falling down. So balance is very important in our life. In the traditional society, take care of body and take care of mind, there were a balance. How much attention should be paid to the body and how much attention should be given to the mind, there's no inequality. Both are being attended. So therefore, the growth is a balanced one. And similarly, the self and other, or the individual and the society, they are also a balance. And in the modernity, individual rights and self is become more important, and thereby the others are gradually neglected. There's a disbalance. And interdependently generating and supply of economy. Economy, in the ancient economy, demand and supply, there need to be a balance. And thereby the gap between rich and poor were not very so high. They were, but they are not very so unbalanced. like today. Actually, the humanity has the capacity to produce all things which is needed by the users. And today, the science and technology have given the humanity the capacity to produce much, much more than what we need. So therefore, the producers shall have to curate the market. The market system does not exist in the past, and the market is a new thing. And in the market, the question is not need, but the need is psychologically imposed through so many advertisements and brainwashing and all this. Then similarly, the individual and society, there was a balance. And rights and responsibilities, they are always interconnected. In the ancient, people do not talk about the rights. They always talk about, particularly in ancient India, they talk about responsibilities. If one performs the responsibility properly, then there's no question of neglecting or violating anybody's right. Everybody performs his or her own responsibility, duty, then everybody's right is being protected. So today, the modern education system pays much more attention to the right side, and they do not talk about responsibility. For example, the so-called United Nations has a universal declaration of human rights, but they do not have any declaration about human duties. If somebody asks what is the human duty, nobody knows. There's no declaration, there's no document. And similarly, cooperation and competition, this is also disbalanced. Today we know only competition, we do not know any cooperation. Competition and cooperation cannot go together. We have a beautiful vocabulary, free and fair competition, but when you are in compete, how you can be free and you can be fair? You can never compete in order to benefit the other or in order to win the other. You always try to win oneself. So there's no scope for free and fair way. So these are few examples which disbalance, and then change of the nature. In the ancient, human beings or all the creatures are users of commodities, and we use them. Today, we are no more a user, we are consumer. We consume things. And using means properly, in accordance with the need, and then not encroach the other's share. And consuming means as much you can consume. There's no consideration of my share or the other's share. So these disbalances, I sometimes feel the current education system is affecting the nature of society. So I just, in a nutshell, few examples. I stop here.
You once said, "The need for virtuous conduct extends to both poles. The development of morality cannot be based only on the premise that it is a social necessity. It is even more necessary for the proper development of the individual." And can you talk more about this idea?
Morality and ethics is not easy to understand or not easy to have a perfect insight about what is moral and what is immoral, what is ethics and what is against ethics. They are very thin line in between. And if you go by religious traditions, most of the religious traditions talk about the morality and ethics little bit different, not in a harmonious or cohesively. They are not big different, but in the subtlety. For example, when we go to the religions are divided into two very distinct groups. The one is believers of a creator, the other is a no-believer of a creator. In Sanskrit we call it Ishwarvadin and Anishwarvadin. Who believe, the tradition who believe into the creator, then all the morality and ethics, the principle are governed by the basic principle of the existence of creator. And like Buddhists and Jain who do not believe in the creator, their morality and ethics are not on the basis of the principle of creator, but they draw on the principle violence or non-violence. So by this way, they are different way of approach to the morality. But nevertheless, whether a believer of creator or no believer of creator, both tradition would say violence is immoral and no violence is morality. This basic principle, I think it is almost universal. Various traditions, by and large, believe in this. So by that way, how you define what is violence and what is no violence. Refrain from violence can be based on two different mindsets. One mindset is basically of selfish nature. I must refrain from act of violence because it will ultimately harm to me. I should not be suffered the consequences of my acting violence to somebody else. So this refrainment of violence on the basis of selfish motivation is of course a good thing. Nature of non-violence, and it is a virtuous thing, and the person is preserving the morality. But the other kind of refrain from violence is not outcome of a selfish attitude, but it is respect and caring and love for others. The other is more important than myself. If I do some harm to the others, as I do not like harm to me, the other will not be like, and it will suffer. So I must not cause any suffering to any other people, because the other person is much more, not only equal to me, they are in numerous, therefore it is much more important than me. This is, in Buddhist terminology, the Bodhisattva attitude, caring for everybody, not for oneself. So this kind of non-violence conduct is not outcome of a selfish motivation. By reducing the selfish motivation and inculcate of the care for entire sentient being is in reality the essential development of the individual. This kind of universal responsibility feeling, universal love feeling is the door. It's the basis for a flowering an individual. The flowering an individual means, in one sense, the destruction of ego. Unless and until you cannot dismantle the ego, the egoistic mindset, the individual always remain in a very small cage, and it cannot grow into a, if I use the Buddhist term, into Buddha nature or into the greatest stage. So therefore we shall have to come out of the bondage of egoistic thing or selfish thing. So for that matter, the key point of individual development is to come out of the individualism and take care of the entire sentient being as equal. So I think in this context I have said about this. Yes.
Also in the interview with Dr. Robert, you said, "I think the possibility is there. Scientists can learn a great deal from spirituality. Mainly, they can learn that they should know the limitations of the ordinary mind. As an aspiring scientist, I am curious to know how one would go about incorporating spirituality into a profession rooted in the rationalization of the physical world."
To find an appropriate answer to this question, I think we define what do you mean the spirituality, and what is, how to define the profession-rooted rationalization of the physical world. Both of these, unless we understood these two, then we may not able to talk how to incorporate both of them in one person's life. There are many spiritual traditions. That is the some difficult. For the Buddhists, you need solid evidence in the spiritual path as well. There's no room for blind faith. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Buddha have said again and over again that don't entertain any faith. You shall have to find the thing, the truth, from your own rational mind. And the rationalization is utmost important in the Buddhist spiritual life. There are other spiritual traditions which tells us that you have to believe and you cannot try to find this spirituality through reasoning and logic. The spiritual experience is beyond logic. And it has also some basis. I do not say they are telling the wrong thing. They take a different route. If someone is taken through the route of rationalization, then he or she may not able to achieve the required spirituality, and let then have a faith and go ahead. And when they have experiential understanding, then faith will become a rational one. So these are two different ways of taking. But even the tradition which recommends faith and not allowing argument or logic, ultimately the person shall have to see the reality, and which is self-evident. And without evidence, anything cannot be imposed. So the need of evidence is equal to the modern science and to the spirituality. Now the difference, now I'm talking only the Buddhist side. In the Buddhist way of taking the person into spirituality, increase your rational mind, enable to find the logical conclusions or the evidences from your own insight, from your own wisdom, from your own intelligence, and that always encourages to analytical meditation or analytical searching. Now, how the Buddhist search differentiates from the modern scientific search? Modern scientific search do not pay any attention to the sharpening of the weapon, that I mean to the improvement of the searching mind. And you are only depend on some instruments or some tools of experiment, and then you go all the search from your ordinary conditioned mind, whatever mindset you have now, that is only used for all the search. And the Buddhist way is, yes, search is very important. In order to improve the quality of your search, you need to improve your intelligence, your sharp mind, your rational mind, and the development of rational mind is very important, because you can find the evidences beyond the limitation of the capacity of ordinary mind. So this is a little different way. I think they can learn that they should know the limitation of the ordinary mind. Now, in a very broad term, development of mind is a spiritual journey, and the searching of outside object is a scientific journey. And if any individual has the intention, you can combine it together. You can do cultivation of your mind, improvement of your mind, sharpness of your mind through various methods, basically the analytical and concentrative meditation system, which empowers your mind. Even the modern scientists do agree that the human brain does not in usage or does not in function the totality. Only small percentage of brain is active, and the major part of brain is not functional in the ordinary life. So through spiritual practice, you can invoke, if I use the modern scientific terminology, invoke the entirety of the 100% of your brain to function, make to function. That is what I am talking about, the development of mind. From ordinary mind to extraordinary mind, you can go that. And by that way, then you will find the evidences more pervasively and more clearly and more undeniably. At the same time, there are another benefit if these two goes together. When you develop your mind, that means not only the intelligence and the sharpening of mind, the quality of mind is also improved. That means you will reduce all the negative emotions. You will have a compassionate mind, and you will have a sense of universal responsibility. And thereby, the professional scientist will not engage or produce such destructive instruments which can harm the others. And whatever your scientific development in the physical level can also be beneficial to all sentient beings and not harming to anyone. At this moment, number one, this mindset of scientists are not evolved enough, and they are full of negative emotions, jealousy, anger, hate. So therefore, the majority of the technology which are come out of the development of modern science are destructive weapons, bombs and all these things. So that can also be changed if we pay attention to combination of spirituality and the science. And here I only refer spirituality is not a rituals or chantings on. I only say the empowerment and upliftment of our inner intelligence. Again, I would quote the Krishnamurti. He is repeatedly say that when you are able to awake your inner intelligence, you will automatically flower in goodness. So flowering in goodness is depend on awakening of your inner intelligence. That is not awaked is at this moment. Once that inner intelligence is awaked, then you are a spiritual person. And you can remain a professional scientist. So there is no contradiction in that.
And Zoe, it seems as though there's a lot of conflict generated from the diversions that religion creates. However, without religion, we are in danger of losing a vehicle for promoting values and ethics. Do you think it is possible to cultivate a universal ethical code that transcends the constraints of a specific religious doctrine?
This is a very important and interesting question. So I will try to discuss this in 3 different parts. The first part is you have said that there is a lot of conflict generated from the divisions that religion creates. And here I may not in agreement with you, because I would say the religions can never create divisions. And it is our illusion that we blame the religion and thereby we coined the terminology religious intolerance, religious conflict, which is a common usage in today. My late friend Raymond Panikkar, a great Christian priest, you might
I do, yes. One of my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
He have written extensively and a great scholar. I still remember him very fondly. And he used to say, when he described religion, we should understand the religion as of today, religiousness, religiosity, religionism. the basic teaching of the religion is the religiousness, and which do not exist today, almost disappear. What is religiosity? Religiosity is when the teaching of religion comes into the humanity. Naturally, the humanity makes some kind of organized society or something, sangha and also. And that organized group make the religiousness little diluted. And then it comes down and humanity make dogmas out of the religiousness, then that is become religionism. And we should not understand the religiosity and religionism as religion. Religion must be in the nature of religiousness, the real doctrine of the teaching, what you were taught by the Jesus Christ or the Muhammad or the Buddha or the Mahavir. Their basic teaching is the religiousness, and which always encourages purification of human mind and eradication of negative emotions. So, again I quote Jiddu Krishnamurti, if someone is religious minded, then that person cannot be intolerant. If any person is intolerant, that is the biggest evidence of the person not a religious person. The person does not have a religious mind. So therefore the religious intolerance is self-contradictory expression. If someone is religious minded, the person cannot be intolerant. Someone is intolerant, you can say he is not a religious minded. He is intolerant, he is full of anger. And similarly, if we revise the term religious tolerance, that is also very disrespectful expression. To tolerate means something which is not acceptable, and I just tolerate it. I just oppose it. I am very tolerant people. I tolerate, although it is not acceptable. So what Gandhi used the term is Sarvadharma Sambhava. That means equal respect to all religion and practice one's own religion. So the tolerance is not enough to establish a religious harmony. To establish religious harmony, we must have respect. All religions are equally sacred, equally holy, and for one individual they can be suitable and unsuitable. Therefore, the suitable religion should be chosen for one individual. But suitability does not mean superiority or inferiority or good and lesser good. So all religions are equally sacred. This mindset is very necessary. So what divisions are created is from the religionism, which is totally a nature of human and human organization, and that is cause of lot of problem in today's world. I may say in the other way, the division, the human individuals are creating division in the name of religion. The religion is not creating the division, but human beings creating division, taking the name wrongly, the religions as the cause of division. So therefore, we shall have to be clear that what is religion and what is not religion, and what the people talk about violence and division today in the name of religion, they are not belonging to that religion. I cannot say for other religions, I can say for the Buddhists, any person who is intolerant and who is violent, who is taking a division among the society and fight with each other, they are not Buddhist. They are just in the taking the name of Buddhism, but their mind is not influenced by Buddhist teaching. So this we shall have to be understood. Then the second, without religion, we are in danger of losing vehicle for promoting values and ethics. It may be 50% true, or it may not be the 50%. We may not think like this. Human conduct or human behavior is basically the conditioned mind of a particular individual. The cause of conditioning, I do not exclude the religiosity and religionism. Religiousness is not a cause of conditioning. But we can cultivate the compassionate mind and non-violence mind in any individual without the vehicle of any particular religious tradition. So your third question, then it follows that, do you think it is possible to cultivate a universal ethical code that transcends the constraints of specific religion doctrine? That is exactly what the 14th His Holiness Dalai Lama is talking about. He have written extensively, and now recent his book is Beyond Religion, Ethic for Whole World. Beyond Religion, Ethic for Whole World is a very popular book which was released last year or year before last year. So you can read that. So in that he always recommends that there must be a channel. That channel could be system of education without belonging to any particular religious tradition or religious doctrine, yet it touches to the basic nature of human mind and make the human mind non-violence and the human mind compassionate. And once the human mind becomes compassionate and arouses the basic nature of compassion, then the individual automatically becomes ethical. So the last portion of question, I just refer the Dalai Lama's book, Beyond Religion.
Nice. So I want to take a minute before we go to the last question, because I think we're going to come out of time. I'm curious, what have you heard from Samdong Rinpoche at this point that struck you or caught your attention or surprised you or
disagree? Anything disagreeable?
Well, something that I was really interested in was how you talked more about the nature of religion in answering my last question, and also when you were talking about Buddha's teachings about not just following blindly and how there's no room for just blind faith in Buddhism, because I think that that's very important, and I think that especially, I know where we come from, there's a lot of, when people talk about religion or religion comes up, it's sort of something people try to avoid because of all the stigmatization around it. So I think that looking at how you split it up with the religiousness and religiosity and religionism, I think, got those right. I think that those are very important distinctions to make. So thank you for that.
I really liked how you talked about spirituality and science being a lot more similar than they might seem. I've been operating under the assumption that they are different ends of the spectrum, and it's impossible to do one with the other. And now, as I take the next step in going to college for science, I am definitely going to incorporate spiritual practice into my studies.
Great.
It seems like, especially in America right now, there's this shift where a lot of people are trying to pick up on like yogic mentalities and wanting to become mindful, and it's sort of a fad. And I've always had a hard time understanding how one can really become mindful. I just appreciated how you talked about how it's sort of a constant battle and you need to just argue with yourself and constantly question things. And it's not a matter of learning how to become mindful, it's just really taking the time to understand your own self and sit with your mind. So thank you for that.
I liked what you said about the ultimate truths, things which are inherently truthful, like even if people don't understand them, and how there's like fundamental truths of our world, and it doesn't really matter what people think. They're true no matter what.
The whole thing about the different aspects of religion and how people interpret them, and especially how you argued that there is not really such a thing as religious intolerance. It's just our own intolerance that we are blaming religion for. That really struck me.
I really liked when you were talking about the difference between being a user and a consumer, because I feel like we refer to ourselves as consumers all the time. It's a very unemotional word, and we don't really realize that being a consumer is actually hurting everything around us, and we need to only use how much we need.
Like what you were saying about the concept of acceptance versus knowing in education, because I tend to just accept things and I don't really question what the teacher tells me or what the book says, and how a truly educated person is the one that knows what they know. And it doesn't really matter if you accept a lot of things, it's what truly matters is if you know what you know.
What struck me when you said learn the limitation of the ordinary mind and then cultivate and strengthen your own, I thought that was a very encouraging sentence.
Sort of a briefer one. When you mentioned the whole thing of how we focus a lot on human rights but never responsibilities, I'd never thought of that really as being something that is kind of, it's a very selfish way of thinking of, saying, okay, well, I'm a person, so I have a right to all of this, and one of my rights is that everyone has to treat me nicely, but we never look at what our responsibilities are, and maybe if we focused on human responsibilities, we wouldn't have as many issues in having basic human rights. So I think that's definitely a new way of thinking that I'm gonna now use.
What struck me was what I mentioned earlier was that both the challenge and the hopefulness of this group and others understanding that we have the capacity to transform our own awareness, our own minds, that it's within our power. And it's not like I need to change or I need to achieve something in a worldly sense, but the idea that when we develop our awareness, self-awareness, then we're perfecting the instrument of the mind So whatever it focuses on, it will have greater awareness, greater intuition, greater imagination, greater creativity to realize that you have the power to transform yourself through your own effort. As you were talking about the mindfulness to challenge yourself. The way you expressed that spoke to me, and I think gives us both a challenge and hope at the same time. So thank you for that. So we have a final question in here somewhere.
As we learned about the current situation in Tibet, we were shocked by how little people around us in the US knew about what has been happening there over the past 50 years. From your perspective, what is the most important thing that we can share with our communities at home about the current situation?
Current situation is very difficult to describe or narrate because it is very diverse thing and difficult to pinpoint the current situation. Tibet, a small nation, we have to little bit knowledge about its history in order to understand the current situation. Small nation, vast territory. The most part of territory were not inhabitable by human beings, very so high and glacier or deserts or something like that, and remain peaceful since 7th century onwards, and all the time the small nation remained between the big powers. One side China, from the imperials of China to the communist China. China always powerful by terms of population, economy, military force, whatever it may be. The other side is India, British India and independent India. Both are very huge and powerful. And the third side is Russia. Russia is also very powerful. And the other side is Mongolia. Mongolia was also very powerful and big nations. Science and technology advancement in the 20th century was remarkable, immense. And there are many things that happened in the positive way as well. And 2 world wars have been fought, and many destructive Hiroshima, Nagasaki things have happened also in the 20th century. And why in the 19th, 20th century have so troublesome, and ultimately a very small nation, Tibet, was also urgently occupied by the Chinese communist military force. So these are many basic questions. We do not pay attention to these questions. All these changes in this world was due to the root cause was exploitation of farmers and laborers by the capitalism in the West in the 19th century, and which gave birth to Marxism. The entire Karl Marx thought was about unequal distribution of wealth and which is unjustifiable and injustice to the majority of the people. And he created a new vision or a new political dogma or doctrine which opposes the capitalist force, and this divides the whole world into two blocks, and this two block has a constant struggle and a conflict, unending conflict even today. So if China remain as of the old system, they will not occupy. But China is transformed itself into communist. They have a very unjustifiable kind of vision to liberate the whole world, and for that they need the Tibet, and that is what the Mao Zedong was inspired to occupy Tibet so quickly. So once Tibet was occupied completely, the world remained silent about this for last 50 years, because the occupation of a small nation Tibet does not directly encroach any nation's immediate interest or immediate benefits. India was the most sufferer due to the border dispute. Otherwise, the rest of the world does not have any direct connection. So that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama always says the problem of Tibet is not a isolated problem of 6 million people alone. It is the symptom of a larger malady which is pervasive to entire humanity of the globe. And that conflict between two economic systems which are very deeply weaving in the nation-state interests of the various nations. So that we have to understand the background. Now, China went through many stages. Tibet was occupied 1951, 1965, 1959 to 65. They have put immense force to eliminate the internal resistance, and which was immediately followed by so-called cultural revolution. And from 1959 till 1969, the repression of the rebels and the cultural revolution together within 10 years, 30% of Tibetan people are perished. 2.1 million Tibetan people died due to the result of occupation. Then there come little bit of liberalization, during which liberalization the commons are being redistributed, and people have individual houses and land or occupations, and certain degree of religious freedom was restored for a few years. And then again it come back to repressive measures since 1998 uprising, and the 1988 uprising repressive measures are been followed by the 2008 Olympic game host in China. At that time also lot of resistance inside Tibet, which are very brutally repressed. And then after the new millennium, the 2000 onwards, a lot of change was taken inside China, and Hong Kong was going back to China, and the leadership was changed 3 times. There are a lot of different changes are taking place, but all these times the situation inside Tibet remain totally unchanged. Now the present situation, your direct question is present situation. The present situation we have to take into consideration, first of all, cultural and spiritual survival. Cultural and spiritual freedom has been intensely visible and invisible way. They are been crunched and they have been reduced. And the second is social freedom. There is no social freedom. Even the Tibetan people, as the citizens of People's Republic of China, they do not have even freedom to go from one town to another town, or any kind of individual liberty was not there. Then the third important is environmental degradation. The physical environment of Tibet has been so intensely damaged, which is not a matter of concern for the Tibetans alone. It is a concern for the whole of Asia, because the 10 great rivers originating from Tibet, which have been immensely polluted, which goes to more than 20 countries, and more than 30% of the Southeast Asian people are relying on Tibetan rivers. So, then the population transfer, the demographic change, which was the China has termed as a final solution to the Tibeti issue. Tibetans have become minority in their own land. So there's no way to express any resentment or any disagreement, no freedom to association, no freedom to cooperation, no freedom to make any voice. So that's why now people indulge to individual self-immolation. And for the last two years, there are more than 130 people has indulged into self-immolation and burned themselves. So this is the symptom that there's no way to express one's grievances and disagreements to the ruler by any way. Then the only way is to end up oneself. So such situation is there. Now, from His Holiness side, he is not asking restoration of freedom, or restoration of independence, political independence, or separation from China. He is only asking the implementation of the constitutional provisions of national regional autonomy, which China's constitution grants that all the minorities shall have a regional national autonomy. The latest document His Holiness representatives hand over to Chinese authorities in 2010, the last round of dialogue, and that was a memorandum of genuine autonomy for all Tibet. And in that memorandum, that is now in the public domain, spells out each provision of the present Chinese constitution, and if these constitutional provisions have been implemented for the Tibetan people, for that of all the minorities, then we will be satisfied with that provisions. But from Chinese authorities, there's no positive response to that. So this is, I think, in a nutshell, this is present situation, and the people living inside are suffering immeasurably, which is very difficult to describe. It is not only violation of described human rights, it is entirely inhuman treatment by all ways. So now these things, unless some people studies it seriously and in depth, is very difficult to image and very difficult to understand. And I think now the Central Tibet Administration, they have recent information documents. If you are interested, you can take them from the Department of Information and International Relations. So you can have authentic information about the present situation. And at the same time, why the entire world who are claiming to be advocates of human rights, democracy, and equality, and so on and so forth, none of them are seriously taking the Tibetan issue, because People's Republic of China is considered to be the biggest and the unlimited market in which every nation's economic interests are directly or indirectly involved. So therefore, unless this situation is by its own nature changes, no one will able to take the Tibetan issue seriously. This is a reality of the day. Thank you.
Thank you for